Hey guys, this is DustMouret, and once again I'm going to be bringing you a tips video mostly geared towards smokes and stuff like that, like I've done with some of the other maps, and this time I'm going to do it with DE Season. Now this map is new to CSGO, came from Counter-Strike Source, and so, it may be familiar to most Source players, but it is going to be different to a lot of the 1.6 crowd who aren't really necessarily used to playing it. This map is, because it's relatively new, also there isn't a whole lot that's out there about it yet. Like I didn't see any other videos out there really for season, or at least not very many. So hopefully this video will be somewhat helpful. There's not a whole lot of set smokes I know for this map, but I'm going to show you what I do know, and maybe just talk over a few things that might help out some of the newer players. And I'll start out on T side, and I'll start out with mid. So having control of mid can be very important for both sides of the map. You can do a lot with mid if you're a terrorist, as far as splitting, rushing like CT spawn to A, or doing some type of B split. But it's also important to know how to block off mid so that you can cross cat safely without always having to use the squeaky door that's over there. So there's a couple of different smokes you can throw at mid to get yourself cover. A couple of the surefire smokes I know to smoke like your side and mid to cross safely cat is if you kind of come up here and you line up this pole with the window like I have, or like the edge of the window is lined up with the edge of the pole, so like that, you can just kind of toss the smoke here at the middle of the wall, and that smoke will smoke off basically this side, and you don't need to have another smoke that blooms somewhere that lands somewhere around this pole, and you can just kind of bounce it off tires or something like that. So when both the smokes are there, it gives you a full wall, and so you can cross safely to catwalk without being spotted mid. So some other smokes that you can use at mid, besides those two that will ensure your cover, is you can bank some smokes that bloom around this generator, so something like that bounces off the wall and blooms like that. What this will do is it does cover your cross cat if you have a passive opper that's playing this passive angle from CT spawn. There's sometimes a little gap like right here, but for the most part it's going to give you some cover, and really you only have to worry if they decide to get a little bit more aggressive and peek out more towards the middle of mid, or if they decide to peek from jail side. So if you only have one smoke, that smoke can at least buy you a little bit of time to cross cat while they're trying to cross over. So that's just one other smoke you can do. Now there are also some smokes that you can just throw over this box to smoke off over there, and so basically you can just kind of aim like at the peak of the tree, basically like the tree branches here, toss something like that that'll land over there and kind of get an aggressive smoke on the CT doorway, and you can even bomb another one if you want, like that, so that gives you some cover. Or you can even throw a the deep smoke like this that actually lands over there. So just some other smokes you can think about throwing. I kind of hicked that one up, but hey, that'll be a little bit helpful. So one other smoke I can show you for mid is actually on the run from T spawn. So you kind of just line up where I'm at here, and you're just going to aim kind of in the middle of this wall space and pretty high up, basically at the height of this electrical box that you see there. So something like this. And you're just going to throw it on the run, just run a few steps and toss it. And as you can see, it lands right there in the doorway. And basically, as you could kind of tell, the timing's pretty good for you, because if you toss that smoke and just run with your knife out, it's going to bloom pretty much when you hit like right where I'm at. And because of that, if there is an opper playing this passive angle, he doesn't really have a whole lot of time to come out of it before you're already kind of in mid with yourself and maybe a teammate. So that might be a smoke you can also implement on your mid takes especially. So now that I've gone over smokes at mid, I'll show you some smokes you can use at A for terrorist side. You used to be able to throw smokes over this wall, but now there's a skybox there on the latest version of season, so that eliminated a lot of different smokes and flashes that you used to be able to implement on A hits, especially being able to throw flashes over the wall and flash horseshoe for upper A players. So that kind of stinks that skybox is on the latest version of season. In case it ever does change, I'm going to throw one smoke. I'm going to show you how to throw smokes at the upper CT doorway. You used to be able to throw it basically by lining up the white of this wall with the red brick of this wall, like that, and then kind of aiming up the corner of this vent at about this height in that general area. But now the skybox is there. Now there is another way that you can do it from right here. You just get up on the corner of this window and you basically aim at the top right hand corner of this window here, and you aim at the height of this corner and just kind of add maybe a little quick step to it, basically just kind of like a tap and throw like that. And that smoke will get in there and block off the upper CT doorway. This helps people coming out of Horseshoe so they don't get opped by somebody playing over here. The only problem with that is that you're a bit exposed, of course, to people playing maybe in the pit or actually playing the catwalk. So you really have to have somebody like kind of cover you while you throw that smoke, and so that's really the only issue with it. Besides smoking upper CT spawn, it's always also kind of important to smoke off this entryway right here, just because a lot of the times a rotator from mid with an op, or maybe just a dedicated A player, will sometimes play this to peek cat, especially if the mid player is unsure whether or not you have cross cat due to maybe some smokes in mid, or if they've heard squeaky door open. So there's different places you can throw that smoke from. First one I know is that if you get all the way up in this corner here and you aim at the corner of this roof like so, there's this white patch in the clouds right here, and if you aim right in between the corner of this roof and the white patch where it starts, so basically like right here, that's kind of in between, you can throw that smoke and it will land right there inside that entryway, and it'll block it off for you. You also have the option of actually aiming at the white patch in the sky, so something like this. So basically you just aim a little bit higher. And what that smoke will do is it also blocks the CT connector from spotting cat, and it also messes up anybody that decides to play like in this corner with an op, which you'll see sometimes. It kind of blocks it all out. So you can kind of just run up cat, you already had that smoked up, you can cross the bridge and then pursue somebody playing like Horseshoe or Sandbags. Now there is the gap here, of course, but if you plant up inside the site, that last smoke I threw will actually help you out a lot. And the only way you'll really be exposed if you decide to try to make a plant like here in the Sandbag. So those are a couple different variations on the smoke from bat cat on upper and lower. Another way that you can smoke J, or that connector CT spawn, besides playing exposed in this corner where you can get spotted from mid, is going to be safely right up here. And basically what you do is you're going to line up this brick wall with the corner of that, so basically like so. Then there's this dot that you see right here on this wooden window, so you're going to put your crosshair there, and you're going to aim at the height of like the tip of this wire or whatever that is. So you just go up from here, and then you get in line with that wire and you just throw the smoke. And that's just a little bit better smoke because you're kind of in cover when you throw that, and it'll also basically do the same thing. So you can either have someone cross from mid to cat and throw that, or maybe somebody can come out squeaky door and throw it. So just a really good smoke to block off that CT connector. Now, one other way that you could smoke upper CT is actually from right here vents. So a lot of times when players execute some type of mid strat or A strat on terror side, they'll do some type of split with some players upper A, some of which may come squeaky door to cat, and you have some type of mid presence from T stairs, maybe a couple crossing mid to cat. And then a lot of the times some teams will elect to have somebody actually run through vents and come out the vent here. So you have like one guy where I'm standing at, people in mid by the tires are crossing mid to cat, and then players upper A. So if you do find yourself in a strat where you have one that came out the vents, you can also smoke upper CT spawn this way. You just get in this corner where I'm at, you aim your crosshair basically at the peak of this tree, like so, and you just kind of run a few steps and then let it go, so something like that. And what this will do is bounce and land and block off the upper CT spawn as well. And that's also probably a bit safer than the one I showed earlier that I threw from here. So just a different variation of throwing that smoke. So basically with the smokes I've shown you, you can block off this connector and then the upper CT doorway. What this allows you to do is work some type of split on upper A and cat, where the only thing you really have to worry about is the people dedicated to A site, which basically means people playing this horseshoe area, or people playing actually inside the site, or playing in pit, or maybe even hiding behind these boxes on cat. So basically what you do is you isolate off the rotations for a bit unless they decide to press through smoke, which basically just allows you to really focus in on some key areas that CTs usually play from to hold the site. You get the plant down and then you can re-smoke these areas if you have any left. And so that's kind of just a basic general strategy behind splitting A. And like I said, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, a bunch of different numbers you can run, mid to cat or squeaky door to cat, or vents to mid to cat, or like I said, you can even work pressure up mid and then work A from here. I've seen a lot of people do that as well in a variation with players also coming upper A and cat. So there's all kinds of different splits you can work, but hopefully that smoke for the CT connector as well as upper CT will at least help you isolate some of the rotation points that are very common on retakes from counter-terrorists to help you get in the site, get the kills you need on the site players with a numbers advantage, and then get that bomb planted and just play smart during the post-plant scenario. So now I've shown you some smokes at mid and some smokes at A for T side. I'm going to show you some smokes that you can also throw for B. Typically B strategy will involve some type of split on B where you have some number of players maybe playing inside the vents and actually spotting jail, while you also possibly have some people working a mid to B strategy with some smokes on the CT connector. That way you can basically split B with people coming mid up the sidewalk into this jail room, while you also have players pressing up B main and then splitting upper and lower in some type of variation. Some smokes that can help you accomplish this, besides the mid smokes that I showed you, is also some smokes you can throw to help you inside the B site. So the first one I can show you is if you get on top of this dumpster here and back all the way up against the wall, just kind of space over. Basically you want to aim your crosshair in the middle of these window panes, but you're going to put your crosshair at the height of this top corner of the building, basically. So something like this. And you just toss it. Like you see it, crashes through the window, and then it's going to bloom right here in this doorway. And basically, it's going to block off jail players and a CT player from spotting you, so long as you kind of stay to the left of this tri-box area. If you come over here, obviously there's a gap in the smoke, but if you run in through this way, you can just focus on, players pit and actually inside the site, as well as possibly upper CT. Now, the way you smoke upper CT is, if you want to do it safely, you can throw some kind of smoke like this that blocks it off. Otherwise, you may actually have to kind of, quick peek out and just throw a simple smoke like that to block that off while that smoke is still bloomed, and then continue to hit this B-bomb site. So basically, to sum things up, so far I've really just worked from T side. I've shown you some different smokes you can throw at mid to either cross mid to go cat, or maybe even work some type of mid to B or just mid pressure. I've also shown smokes that you can throw in some different variations to block off this CT connector as well as the upper CT doorway. This basically blocks off rotators and also possibly passive upper CT players, and allows you to work A splits that are able to just focus on players actually inside the site while you're blocking off the quick rotates, and hopefully with the numbers advantage you can get the bomb down and then play smart post plant and win the round. I've also shown a smoke through the window at B to help you block off this area, as well as how you can throw some smokes up here at the CT doorway and basically once again isolate people playing passive or rotators. That way you can focus on getting players actually inside the main site and getting the bomb down. Now unfortunately, I'll be quite honest with you, Season is pretty new to the rotation in CSGO, and while it is similar to the source version, the smoke placements are a bit different. And also, like I said, with some of the skybox changes that we've seen, it's really hard to implement a lot of smokes that you used to be able to do and flashes you used to be able to do that would kind of flash off and smoke off this horseshoe area. So that kind of eliminated some strategy. Hopefully, over time, as this map gets played more and more things will be figured out for it. And maybe I'll even make a new and updated video that kind of displays, those new things. So I just wanted to kind of briefly touch on CT side too, on DE season. There's a lot of different ways you can play it. Of course, the standard is probably 2B, 1 mid, and 2A. Where your mid player might play like kind of passively with an op, kind of like I showed before, pending they don't smoke you out, or maybe he even steps out and plays a little bit more aggressive with the op. If you do have an op or mid, this typically means that he can watch and know if they're crossing mid to cat, in which case, as long as squeaky door doesn't get heard opened, you can really focus 2 on upper A somehow, either like with 1 up close and 1 up on the sandbags, or 1 up close on a horseshoe while 1 plays from the site, or the default bomb plant sandbags. Basically, the point is that if you have some type of mid presence with 1 player and they're able to watch your cat cross, you can focus with some type of double upper A setup, which can be pretty useful for any type of upper A rushes. But it's just dependent upon how the team you're playing against is playing their terrorist side. Also, I've seen people play a lot more aggressive mid with 2 to 3 players playing mid, where they just kind of smoke, flash, nade up close, and then work their 2 to 3 players up to this point, and then from here you can kind of spot vents and even push into them, as well as press and actually make peeks on T stairs, and even make your way up here to kind of keep an eye on squeaky door. So basically, this just gets you a lot of control of mid, lets you hear a lot of what they're doing at the T stairs area, so that you can kind of figure out whether they're going BRA and then make a quick rotation through jail. Or through vents to get to B, or be right here to be able to quickly rotate the cat to defend A if you only have maybe 1 or 2 players defending A, just depending. So that's also another way that you can kind of look at mid on CT side. And then on B, just depending, typically you have 2 players here. You can either, be doubly aggressive at lower B, throw smokes and flashes down here and actually really block off their strat. Or you can split it to where one's being pretty aggro at lower, popping flashes and nades and kind of impeding their rush, while another guy runs upper the whole time, and you have some type of crossfire with 1 peeking here while 1's on the lower stairs. Or you can choose to play more passive, have somebody from jail, watch upper, while somebody from upper watches lower. Or maybe have 1 double stack boxes spotting lower or upper, while lower does the opposite, or maybe 1 pit, this guy's spotting upper while 1 plays pit watching lower. So there's all kinds of different things you can do on CT side B. So it's just up to you what you notice from the other team, what you like to do personally, what you feel comfortable with, and that pretty much sums it up. Like I said, this map's new to CSGO, so I don't know a whole lot for it yet, but hopefully some of those smokes on T side and some of these basic ideas might help out a newer player to the game.